When the news first came out, it was reported that there was a body in his car that had been there for an extended period of time before being found. It was too badly decomposed to be identified.
Now his driver's license was inside that very car, directly tying him to the murder. Why did he...
But now his driver's license was sitting inside that same car, directly linking him to the murder. Why did he do it? And why was the truth hidden for so long? I've got the whole story. Let's dive in. The day everything changed. Picture this, September 8th, 2025. Just another Tuesday morning at the Hollywood Tow Yard, where regular folks were just out here earning their paychecks. But on this morning, the crew at Hollywood Tow on Mansfield Avenue caught wind of something that would stick with them forever. That stench wasn't leftover takeout or some dirty socks in the backseat. Nah, this was the smell of death. For real. When the guys popped the front trunk of that abandoned Tesla, what they uncovered was pure nightmare fuel, something no one should ever have to witness. Wrapped up like trash in a black bag was the decayed, dismembered body of what would later be confirmed as 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. The poor girl's remains were so far gone it took the coroner over a week to ID her, using dental records and a small tattoo to confirm what everyone already feared. But here's where the story takes a sick turn. This wasn't just some random car dumped in a lot. That Tesla was registered to David Anthony Burke, known to millions as David, the 20-year-old golden boy who went from streaming Fortnite in his mom's basement to topping charts with moody breakup tracks. He was supposed to be this clean-cut, church-going pop star writing songs about love and faith. Turns out, he was hiding demons darker than anyone imagined.
The investigation into singer David has intensified after the body of a teenager was discovered in a Tesla that has been linked to him. From canceled tours to social media revelations, new developments are raising serious questions about their supposed relationship and the ongoing
Now peep this timeline, because it gets worse the deeper you go. That Tesla had been sitting abandoned in the Hollywood Hills for almost 3 weeks before anyone even thought to tow it. Neighbors had been complaining for months about that car moving from one curb to another since May, like someone was playing a twisted game of hide-and-seek with a corpse. The city finally got fed up and had it towed on September 5th, but it wasn't until 3 days later that tow yard employees stumbled onto the gruesome scene inside the trunk.
That's why when the news first broke, most people just assumed he couldn't have possibly done it. I even said to a friend when it first came out, I was like, I feel like the Fortnite kid who's pretty normal didn't do something like this, because that was always the impression that I got from him, but that may not be the case.
And man, this part will tear you up. Celeste, just a kid, had turned 15 the day before her body was found. She never even got to celebrate her birthday. Just a sweet, normal girl who loved Hello Kitty and dreamed of making it out someday. She'd been reported missing multiple times since 2024, disappearing at least 3 different occasions. The last time she vanished was in April 2024, when she was barely a teenager. Her family spent over a year searching, praying for good news, until the worst kind hit them like a train. But what made everybody furious was David's response. His team dropped some cold, generic statements saying he'd been notified and was cooperating with authorities, while this man was still out here performing like nothing happened. The night after Celeste was found, he was on stage tossing merch into the crowd like it was a celebration. The nerve of this dude was off the charts.
According to NBC, a spokesperson for David said he has been informed about what's happened, and although he is still out on tour, he is fully cooperating with the authorities. But he would have been touring for over a month before the body was decomposed, according to his tour date.
Once the word hit the block, the industry moved lightning fast to cut ties. Brands like Crocs and Hollister dropped his deals quicker than a pan on fire. Nobody wanted that smoke. His label, Innercope, slammed the brakes on promoting his next album, and collaborators like Kei Uchi started scrubbing every trace of him from their feeds. When the checks stopped clearing, you already know something serious went down. The location of it all was shady, too. That Tesla got towed from just around the corner from the Hollywood Hills pad David was crashing at, a mansion his manager was renting for 20 grand a month. This wasn't some random drop spot on the other side of town. Dude literally dumped a body steps from where he slept, thinking no one would ever put 2 and 2 together.
Also, we got a picture of David in Lake Elsinore, which is in Riverside County. It's about 70 miles from downtown Los Angeles, far away from where he was living.
But it's where Celeste is from.
It's a 5-minute walk from
This
where
parking
Celeste's
lot, the
family.
photo.
The LAPD's Robbery Homicide Division picked up the case, but their pace was slower than dial-up internet. They kept saying David wasn't a suspect at this time and that the cause of death was still pending further analysis. That careful language didn't sit right with people, especially when folks started asking if things would have gone differently had the victim been a rich white teen from Beverly Hills instead of a brown girl from the block. Fans were spinning out, too, trying to make sense of it all. This was the same artist preaching love, faith, and positivity, the guy who smiled in interviews and gave to charity. The mental whiplash was real. How could someone who built a career on purity be caught up in something so sinister? But anyone who really knows how the streets work could see the pattern clear as day. The most dangerous predators often wear the kindest faces. They hide behind charm and innocence, using that clean image like camouflage to move undetected. The sweeter they seem, the darker the secrets they're usually keeping. Social media was exploding with wild theories, but the sharper minds knew to wait for receipts. Because when stories like this unfold, reality tends to be even uglier than the rumors. What started as a random day at a tow yard had uncovered what looked like years of exploitation buried beneath a carefully polished persona. The entertainment world held its breath, knowing the fallout from this wouldn't just stain David's name. It would spark a full-on conversation about young fame, manipulation, and the predators hiding behind celebrity. The culture was about to face some uncomfortable truths, and this was only the beginning. As investigators dug deeper, it was clear there'd be no quick ending. This was just chapter 1 in a much darker saga about the music industry's hidden rot. Then the receipts started rolling in. First came Celeste's mom, speaking to TMZ and dropping bombshells. She said her baby girl had a small shish tattoo inked on her right index finger, the same one found on the remains. And here's where things got eerie. David had that exact same shish tattoo on his right index finger, too. Sure, fans matching ink with their idols isn't new, but under these circumstances, that coincidence hit different.
Well, she was basically talking about how one of the identifying features of Celeste was a tattoo on her finger, which she specified to us, which we then transferred over to that information to LAPD, was that the tattoo was red.
But the real shocker came when Celeste's mother dropped a bomb. Her daughter had been dating someone named David before she vanished. This wasn't just some obsessed fan with a matching tattoo trying to show love for her favorite artist. Nah, this was allegedly a full-on relationship between a grown man and a teenage girl who was still young enough to have dolls on her shelf.
Right, but...
And also,
and I think even more importantly, was that she mentioned that Celeste, at least she was under the impression, that Celeste was dating a guy called David, and that she had hung out with him several times before, and that was the last time she saw him.
The timeline of that so-called relationship had everyone sick to their stomachs. Word going around was that David first came into Celeste's life when she was barely 11 or 12, probably through some online game like Roblox. A teacher from Lakeland Village Middle School even posted a TikTok saying Celeste had told classmates she met David online and once ran away to be with him. Cops brought her home, but not long after, she disappeared again for good in April 2024. Just sit with that power imbalance for a second. When this grooming allegedly began, Celeste was still losing baby teeth, while David already had fame, followers, and a fan base. By 2022, he was 17 or 18, and she was barely out of elementary school. That's not inappropriate. That's criminal, plain, and simple, something that should have landed this dude behind bars long before any of this happened. And the digital trail? It was stacking up like evidence on a detective's desk. Online sleuths dug up screenshots from David's own Discord server, showing conversations with someone named Celeste, some messages dating back to 2022. Even worse, there were claims he told his moderators to wipe the chats, trying to cover his tracks, proof that he knew he was crossing a line. Then came the photos, disturbing images allegedly showing David with Celeste, her face always turned or hidden from the camera. Once people realized the reason behind that secrecy, it hit different. One picture in particular sent chills down spines, both of them wearing the same clothes, flashing the same tattoos, like a twisted couple's selfie. And then came the location clues. One photo surfaced of David standing in a parking lot just 5 minutes away from Celeste's home in Lake Elsinore, a working-class area miles away from his Hollywood lifestyle. What was a chart-topping artist doing out there unless he was visiting someone specific? Someone named Celeste. But the most haunting clues weren't online or in pictures. They were hidden in his own music. It's like he couldn't resist leaving a trail. An unreleased track called Celeste leaked back in December 2023, and the lyrics were straight-up chilling. Oh Celeste, the girl with my name tattooed on her chest. Smell her on my clothes like cigarettes. I hear her voice each time I take a breath. That wasn't just a song. It sounded like a confession hiding in plain sight.
Celeste, the girl with my name tattooed on her chest. I'm obsessed. Celeste, afraid you'll only love me when I'm dead.
The timing of David's releases wasn't random, not by a long shot. The Romantic Homicide music video dropped on September 7th, which just so happened to be Celeste's birthday. That's not coincidence, that's a message. It fit into a disturbing pattern of David dropping new songs or videos on dates tied directly to her. And when you go back and listen to Romantic Homicide knowing what we know now, those lyrics hit like a gut punch. In the back of my mind, you died, and I didn't even regret it. I can't believe I said it, but it's true. What fans once thought was heartbreak poetry suddenly sounded like a confession disguised as art. People in the LA scene started stepping forward, saying they'd seen David hanging with a young girl they assumed was a college-aged woman, never realizing she was actually a 13 or 14-year-old kid using fake IDs. That fake maturity gave her access to clubs, concerts, and after-parties. Proof that David had built a whole setup to groom and hide his victim in plain sight. And the deeper the investigators dug, the uglier it got. Some private investigators believe Celeste's death might have been the result of an overdose, one that David allegedly tried to cover up instead of calling for help. Even if he didn't physically end her life, that act of panic, of concealment, made him just as guilty through negligence and cowardice. Surveillance footage from March 2024 showed Celeste near a liquor store in Lake Elsinore, one of her final confirmed sightings before disappearing for good. Her brother later shared the heartbreaking truth that the last time they saw Celeste alive, she was heading out to see a movie with someone named David, and she left in the exact same black Tesla that would later become her tomb. At this point, the puzzle pieces weren't just fitting, they were screaming. The tattoos, the timing, the proximity, the art, the lies, and that car tying it all together like a crime scene centerpiece. All signs pointed to a long-running relationship hidden behind fame and filtered photos, a secret affair that spiraled into tragedy. By the time law enforcement finally woke up to the storm brewing online, the streets had already done half the detective work. The evidence pile was sky high, and the outrage was boiling over. On September 17, 2025, LAPD's robbery homicide unit finally rolled up to David's Hollywood Hills mansion, the same one rented through his manager for $20 grand a month, just blocks from where the Tesla had been dumped. They came ready to tear that place apart, and that's exactly what they did. The raid lasted for hours, with cops walking out carrying computers, hard drives, and bags of evidence. Forensics teams were even swabbing for blood, searching for anything that could link that luxurious hideout to Celeste's murder.
TMZ confirmed that a house David was living in was searched by the LAPD. The house was being rented by his manager from Interscope, but there are a ton of pictures and videos of him in the house over the past year. Apparently, LAPD homicide detectives searched the house Wednesday and walked out with a computer and several evidence bags.
The timing of that raid had the whole neighborhood side-eyeing the lapped, wondering if they were dragging their feet on purpose. For more than a week, they'd known about the body in that Tesla, yet David was still out on stage, still smiling for cameras, maybe even wiping away evidence while the cops stood still. Folks started asking the hard question, was fame buying this man time to clean up his mess? The community didn't wait around for answers. Vigils started popping up all over Lake Elsinore, candles glowing on sidewalks, people holding photos of Celeste and demanding justice for a child who never had a chance. Online, the hashtag #JusticeForCeleste spread like wildfire, with users digging up facts, posting receipts, and keeping pressure on the police. But then something darker happened. His numbers went up. Romantic homicide climbed back up the charts as curious listeners pressed play, turning tragedy into clicks. It was a grim reminder of how true crime fascination can sometimes make monsters trend. Still, his career was crumbling fast. Major festivals like Spilled Milk 2025 axed him from their lineups, his US and European tours were scrapped, and his upcoming Grammy Museum appearance vanished from the calendar without a trace.
Yeah, he didn't do it.
He's not a murderer?
No.
Thank God, bro, because I was still going to listen to his music. I was just worried that I'd be an asshole if I did.
No, listen, he didn't do it. He literally performed the next day. If he was a suspect, the police would have been after him. He's not a suspect.
He's not just escaping the police clutches?
No. And I'm going to perform. We're going to perform on the 20th, me and David.
Tesla.
I don't think it's him because he's been on tour.
No,
but also,
I don't think it's him either. I think it's like almost obviously not him.
Even the diehards started jumping ship. Streamer Jason Lewin, one of David's loudest defenders, went online to take it all back, deleting his old videos and hitting that unfollow button like the rest of the world. It was the clearest sign yet that public opinion was shifting fast, and David's golden boy image was turning to dust right before everyone's eyes.
I feel like I need to speak on this. Okay, be serious for a minute, because the narrative that's been spun on Twitter. First off, I want to retract my statement. Obviously, the other day, I was defending David before all the new evidence came out. I do not condone anything that David has done or is doing.
Other influencers and celebs who once bragged about knowing him were ghosting him overnight. Mass unfollows, deleted photos, and statements distancing themselves as far as possible.
By the way, guys, if you see anyone asking about the David situation, I completely understand why they would. Please refer them to either my tweet or my IG.
But the darkest revelations were still ahead. As investigators kept digging, they uncovered what looked like Discord messages suggesting Celeste had been pregnant. Messages dated July 2024 hinting at a due date in March 2025. If that was true, it could have been the motive that tied everything together. A pregnancy would have exposed everything: the grooming, the abuse, the lies, and David had every reason to keep it buried. More photos surfaced, allegedly showing them together in different places. Celeste's face always turned or hidden, but her clothes and jewelry matching what friends knew she owned. Witnesses and surveillance placed them together more than once, painting a timeline that stretched back years. And then, the lyrics, always the lyrics. His 2022 track Decide suddenly sounded like a diary entry written in code, with lines that read, "Save your tears, 7 years." Words that once sounded poetic now felt like they were pointing straight to a timeline of obsession, control, and tragedy. Exactly the time it would take for an 11-year-old to reach legal age. That line hit different once people did the math. This wasn't symbolism, it was a blueprint for grooming. The unreleased track Celeste went even darker, filled with disturbing, intimate lyrics that only someone who truly knew the victim could write. And the timeline made it worse, recorded in 2023, right when Celeste was missing, suggesting their connection hadn't ended at all. Even David's stage shows started looking twisted in hindsight. Witnesses said he brought coffin props on tour and asked fans to write letters to the dead. What once seemed like edgy performance art now looked like a predator showing off his crime in plain sight. By October, Celeste's remains were finally released to her family for burial, closing one heartbreaking chapter and opening another filled with court dates and grief. A GoFundMe was launched to help cover funeral costs, a painful reminder that, on top of losing their child, her loved ones now had to find a way to lay her to rest. Meanwhile, David had quietly vacated his Hollywood Hills mansion, and his exact location was unknown. Sources claimed he was still cooperating through lawyers, but weeks passed without a single arrest. Legal analysts explained the delay. The coroner's office was still completing the autopsy and toxicology reports, which could take anywhere from 2 to 4 months. Without that data, prosecutors couldn't lock in the highest murder charges. Still, the evidence already on record could easily justify multiple counts tied to the exploitation of a minor. What began as a shocking discovery in a tow yard had evolved into one of the most chilling entertainment scandals in years. One pointing to a deliberate pattern of grooming, deceit, and eventual death hidden behind the mask of a clean-cut pop idol. As investigators built their case and the community kept demanding answers, one thing was undeniable. The good boy image David sold to the world was nothing but camouflage for something far darker beneath the surface. That Tesla wasn't just the scene of a crime. It was the final puzzle piece, proof of years of manipulation and abuse that ended in tragedy. The legal process could drag on for months, maybe years, but the public had already made up its mind. The evidence was too deep, too detailed, too interconnected to brush off as coincidence. The question wasn't if David was involved anymore. It was how far that involvement went, and what justice for Celeste would ultimately look like. The streets had done their part, exposing the truth one breadcrumb at a time. Now it was up to the system to do theirs, to make sure that Celeste Rivas Hernandez's story didn't end with silence, but with accountability. Thank you for watching. If you found this story important, click one of the videos on your screen for more cases just like this.